Today, we're joined once again by Alexandra from Just the Inserts for a critical discussion on informed consent during pregnancy. Get ready to dive into the importance of understanding inserts for common procedures like epidurals and learn how to make informed decisions for you and your baby. We'll also explore where GMOs lurk in our food supply and shatter the myth that centenarians are merely genetic anomalies. Don't miss this insightful episode for a healthier, more empowered approach to your well-being. Let's listen.
The Discovery Doc Podcast, where your journey to empowered, non-toxic living begins. Join me, Dr. Cece, a doctor of nursing practice, self-proclaimed toxin tamer, and mama of four, alongside
me, Anna Kate, your medical mystery overachiever. Together, we'll uncover the latest in functional medicine, debunk health myths, tame toxins, and provide practical tips for thriving in a modern world.
Get ready to take control of your health with expert insights, raw stories, and actionable wellness strategies designed to help you and your family lead vibrant, toxin-free lives.
Welcome to the Discovery Doc Podcast. Today, we're exploring informed consent and how to advocate for yourself during pregnancy. We are back again with Alexandra, who is just, if you missed last week's episode, you need to go back and listen because it is so full of nuggets and all of the things. And just, I feel empowered already. So I can't imagine what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
I'm ready to go. Yes, we are back. Alexandra is the mastermind behind Just the Inserts. Truly go back and listen to the first episode because we just get into the basics of how she, came across building this amazing resource. And now we want to dive into everything pregnancy related. So we often face tons of decisions. As you know, this is kind of part of your story, tons of decisions for ourselves or our children when it comes to their health. How can we as moms kind of continue down that informed consent process and avoid feeling pressured or bullied by healthcare practitioners?
Yeah, how do we gird our loins?
What's your top tips kind of for one, let's back up. One, the confidence and kind of starting to understand the inserts and the confidence behind that. And then two, avoiding that pressure kind of bullying feeling.
That is such a great question. It's so essential. And despite what my name is, Just the Inserts, I actually do go very in depth on this very thing because it's important. In order for you to value the inserts, you first need to value informed consent. You still need to understand the importance of it and your right as a consumer to have informed consent. Now, I also talk about the importance and relationship between responsibility and authority. If you are responsible for a potential adverse reaction to a pharmaceutical product or to a disease complication, you automatically have the authority to accept, delay, or decline a product. And that translates to your child as well. The second that you become pregnant, I believe that you are gifted an intuition, and it is nurtured and it grows as you become further along in your pregnancy, as you give birth, and as you become a mother. My child, my oldest is 5 years old, and my intuition is constantly growing with her and just learning how to, when she gets up in the morning, I almost know immediately how that day is going to be because I can just tell by her voice. I can tell by if she has any dark circles under her eyes, if her voice is raspy. Those are things that our intuition tells us, okay, she didn't get enough sleep. Maybe we're not going to do sugar today, or maybe we're going to skip school today and just nurture her nervous system, or there's other things that I can do for her. So right off the bat, as soon as you find out that you're pregnant, start to listen to your intuition and start to nurture that. Turn down the dial of everyone telling you and projecting their fears and their misconceptions or preconceived notions about a disease or a product, and go research it yourself. Go find that knowledge and confidence yourself. We're constantly told that we're not smart enough to make informed decisions about ourselves when we're pregnant, but that's not true at all. I talk about in my book that the ability for us to understand anything in our life is through our body. And so we should have that ability to understand our bodies because it's the mechanism of which we can understand anything else. So it's not necessarily that you don't have the capability to understand. It's just you're not given the opportunity to research that, and you're not given the confidence by those around us in our culture, or maybe your medical professional, to start learning about that. And I even talk about it too. I'm humble enough to just go onto YouTube. There are many medical agencies and .gov resources on YouTube that teach you about the body, teach you basic biological events that occur when you accept acetaminophen, or basic biological things that happen in your circulatory system. And those are all things that we have access to that are free, that we can just go educate ourselves on, because it's really hard to understand the potential implications of an adverse reaction or a product if we don't understand the basics of our body. So that would be my first advice, is understand, how does your nervous system work? How does your lymphatic system work? How does your kidney work? How does your liver work? How does it detox from all of these things? Because if you notice that you might have a sluggish kidney or liver, introducing a pharmaceutical that has excipients or ingredients that need to be detoxed could increase your risk for an adverse reaction. It might not be the active ingredient that you're worried about, but it could be any of the additional things. So I have firm belief that anyone listening can make informed decisions for themselves. And everything that I do is to help you do that for yourself. All the training and resources that I have on justtheinserts.com are there so that you can make the best decision when you're pregnant and then when you become a parent.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So something that I when patients come to my office, it's often because they've been kicked out of their conventional practices. And I will never reject a patient ever, because to me that's malpractice, right? If a parent is assigned to do something that the medical community does not agree with, then they kick them out. How is that not malpractice? Now you're not caring for a newborn or a 1-month-old because of a decision that the parents want to make for their own child. So
Lawyers.
yeah, I know. So
We love lawyers. Just there's the thing.
Sometimes we have to just clamper. But one thing that I get all the time is that sense of pressure and bullying, and how, as a mom, and I got that when I took my son after our home birth into the ER. This is a whole story that we talked about. He didn't need to be there. He wasn't acute. I had a water birth. He had a laryngeal malacia, which is a floppy airway. I just thought he might need to be suctioned a little bit. He was a little wet sounding. And so I don't have that suction in my office. The only place that has that is the ER. And I got so bullied and ended up being there for 9 hours. And I had to sign out AMA because an incompetent ER physician and the way he was treating me because I had a home birth. Mm-hmm. So I understand the bullying that can occur. And I'm a practitioner who is 2 days postpartum, who has a husband who is an MMA fighter with all these big muscles standing next to me. And we were still bullied. Yeah. So in that moment, I was like, man, this is what happens if it's the mom herself, who's soft-spoken, who is uncomfortable standing up. What would be your number one tip to that mom who it's not natural for her to kind of stand up to that sense of pressure?
That's great. And you hit on the patient having an advocate with you, which would be your husband. Yeah. Find someone. There are so many doulas out there. There are so many naturopathic practitioners, functional medical people that will offer services to accompany you to a hospital environment. Try to find them, try to have them on call right out. If you're pregnant, that's the first thing that I would recommend. A lot of midwives do it as well. First, you would want trusted family and family members and friends.
You got it.
There's so much that I want to say, and so it's just all verbally vomiting out of my mouth. But I would find someone that you could have, because I myself have been in a situation like that where I was postpartum in a hospital environment. I don't share a lot of the details of my daughter that was injured by the synthetic vitamin K injection, just out of respect for her personal medical history. But I've been in that situation before, and it was a little bit where I was told that I had to stay, even though there were plenty of situations where we could have left. But you need to have someone, because you're postpartum, you're tired, your hormones are raging, you're trying to protect your breast milk, you are healing, you have the wound the size of a dinner plate inside of you. Mm-hmm. There are so many things that are going on that you need to make sure that you aren't the sole person advocating for yourself, and make sure that the person that is there understands your wishes, has done the research, things like that. But so right off the bat, have a patient advocate. The other thing is, when you're experiencing medical bullying, medical coercion, it's not appropriate. It's not okay. Try to safely remove yourself from that situation if you can. If there is external issues with your state law, CPS, things like that, the definition of medical neglect, according to your state, I understand that. I've been there, 100% understand. So when you're in that situation, most of the time the medical bullying or coercion is happening because they see themselves as an authority figure over you. So my advice to that gentle-minded, soft-spoken, doesn't want to upset the apple heart person is fight back with authority. So go to the inserts. Go to the .gov resources, find what the manufacturer and government says about those products, about that procedure, and then present it to that medical professional. Don't say you got it from justtheinserts.com. Everything you say after that, they have been trained to disregard. Say you got it from a .gov resource and then show it to them, because that is how they are trained to take that information. If you say you got it off Instagram or something like that, they will totally disregard what you're saying. So that's why I recommend, before you're in that situation, take my free training course, How to Read an Insert. It's free online, no email required. I don't profit at all from that training course. I don't take any third-party data or ads or anything like that. There's optional audio in English and Spanish. Take it and learn how to find and read manufacturer inserts. So if you're in that situation, you can pull up your phone and you can find what you need and make those critical decisions. And then you can present it and say, okay, I was looking at the manufacturer insert that's on the FDA website, says that this is a contraindication. My child has this contraindication, and then go from there, whatever the situation might be.
Right. That was actually a question I wanted to ask you last episode, was tips for those parents who are just starting out. So I'm glad you just, mentioned that to our audience. And I do want to say, there are also people who will go with you to your pediatrician appointments. So there are doulas who will continue on that service and actually go with you to a well child visit. So sit down and talk about the things that can be expected at those well child visits. Okay, the milestones, what sort of treatments are usually given at that time. Go through the research of it, look at those manufacturer inserts, make up your decision beforehand, and then bring someone with you. If you're not comfortable kind of standing in that dirt, bring somebody with you. And I understand that, because even I'm so confident in decisions I make for my family, my kids, but you are in especially as women, I feel like we are placed in very sensitive times, in our journeys of motherhood, that sometimes I get in that situation and I even shut down a little bit. So I'm so thankful that I have someone like my husband. If I tell him no, he's like, you can, it's no, or you can, get the out of here.
No is a full
No
sentence.
is no, exactly.
Yeah.
And he's so confident with that. So I'm so blessed to have him. But there are people who will go with you, not just to the hospital, not just during birth or labor, but also to pediatrician appointments. Now,
And that's
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry that you just brought up a great point, because so many times too, whenever we accept products, speaking from experience, sometimes we do it because we don't want to upset someone. We don't want to inconvenience someone. And that's not okay. That's a very unhealthy precedent to set. If you're accepting a product just because you don't want to upset someone, that's called consumer guilt. And I do touch on that in the book. And that's something that we really need to be aware of, the psychology behind that. Because that's just not healthy. You don't want to be accepting a product. Like I said, responsibility equals authority. You are responsible for the adverse reactions of any product you accept, so you have the authority and you can stand in that authority with confidence and knowledge. And I do too. You can the pendulum can swing on the other side. I've seen people who get very aggressive and they start yelling and pointing their finger and talking how evil the doctors are and things like that. And I know that not all medical professionals are, because they're in my DMs. I know that there aren't, and a lot of them are leaving the conventional healthcare model.
Yeah.
I'm working on a pro-informed consent provider directory right now, and I just spent the entire weekend going through providers who have left that model and now they're in direct primary care, or they're in memberships, because they want to spend more time with their patients, because they want their patients to have that bodily autonomy to make the decisions. So there are other providers out there. If you are consistently in a hostile relationship with your provider, my advice is to find someone else. You might have to go outside your network. You might have to drive a little bit farther, but to me, I feel like as an informed consumer, it's your right to be able to do that.
Yes, you're the captain of your ship, and nobody knows your body as well as you do. Nobody knows your children's body as well as you do. And that, for me as a practitioner, is always the mindset that I go on. my education is my education, but I will not ever pretend to act like I know more about your body than you do. And I think you touched on one really good thing that I wanted to touch on just before our deep dive question, is that your intuition is so powerful. And there are often times that I trust my own intuition too when it comes to patients, but I will turn it and I will say, listen, here are your options. Trust your intuition, whether it's as a mom or as my patient, if I'm seeing the adult, trust your intuition and go with that. We are so separated from ourselves and our own intuition. It's just how society has made us for whatever reason. But that is so much more powerful than any medical provider. Now, deep dive question for you as we're talking.
Wait,
What?
I want to insert something.
Okay, insert.
No pun intended.
So from someone that has been to the ER several times for multiple reasons, not just in pregnancy or anything like that, or post-pregnancy, always bring someone with you, because lots of things are happening. Even if you would just have someone document, okay, we saw this doctor, it took us this long, like this is what they recommended, this is the paperwork that we signed, this is what they said it was going to cost. You take a screenshot, you take a picture of it, have someone do that, because when you're the one that's in the ER, you don't really feel like doing all of that. So having someone that can kind of help keep pace, and also if this is something that happens not continuously, but it's happened more than once, then you have someone that can advocate for you of, hey, this has happened before, that we have a history of this. Like I have a history of blood clots. So when I feel something off, I'm going to go to the ER.
Yeah.
If it's in the middle of the night or I can't get to see her or someone else or my hematologist or whatever. If I know my body, I know something's wrong, but having that other person to help you advocate on in any appointment, but especially an ER appointment, make sure that you have
100%.
someone with you.
Yeah. I have so many patients who, even when something goes, I don't want to say wrong, but awry or different after birth, and I'll ask, hey, and I know there's medical papers, but I'll ask the parents, hey, okay, were any interventions given outside of giving the baby oxygen? Oh, I don't know. I think he had an IV, but I'm not really sure. Like nothing's explained to you in depth. So having that person in the hospital or in an ER situation, it's such a cluster, that you don't know what's going on. So anyways, deep dive question for you in terms of pregnancy, as we're on this topic. Can you talk to us a little bit about what is not known about epidurals and what we aren't educated or told when it comes to epidurals potentially?
Yeah, epidurals was one of the first inserts that I did. I started over 4 years ago, and I think I did it within my first year. And oh man, I got raked to the coals by so many labor and delivery nurses. However, I really appreciate, I would say about 97% of the nurses that talked with me, either in the comments or the DMs, realized that they had never read the insert and realized that a lot of what they had been trained kind of conflicted with what the insert says. So the first thing is to understand that there is a fetal monitor that is recommended, and that's actually a screw. It's like a very thin metal that is recommended to be screwed into the baby's head. A lot of times they'll call it a clip, but it's not. It's the manufacturer actually has a picture of it in the insert. And a lot of moms don't realize that the manufacturer recommends, in order to monitor the baby, especially if the epidural has some kind of opioid like fentanyl, that the manufacturer recommends that there be an internal monitoring of the baby, just to make sure that everything is okay. Because unfortunately, providers are human, and sometimes too much is given. Sometimes it's in the wrong area. So that's just really important for you as a patient to understand that needs to be, according to the manufacturer, required. So then you can decide if that's something that you want to have. Some people don't want that monitoring. And then the second thing is, most of the epidural manufacturer inserts will list anxiety and depression as a known potential adverse reaction. We know from the NIH that 1 out of 8 women experience postpartum depression. I've had many friends that have experienced that, and it can affect your postpartum recovery. It can affect your breastfeeding experience. And so it's just really important for you to be aware of. I know so many times women are told, oh, don't take the metal just to get the epidural, but they're not also told that it could cause complications. You could have back pain, you could have migraines, you could have depression, anxiety. You could have, there are so many things. We would sit here for an hour to go through the full insert. And then there's different inserts for different things because there's so many different types of epidurals. But that would be my advice, is that if you do want an epidural, or even if you don't want an epidural, go and research it. So then if you're in that moment where you feel like you actually do want an epidural, at least you're more informed about it, for you and for baby.
Yeah, in the moment is not the time to read the insert.
No, and you're also,
Right.
it's not verbalized. There is no verbalization. I mean, I had an epidural with my first one because I had to have a C-section. That's a whole different story. But I wasn't told anything. Anything.
Right.
Not a word. Not
Yeah.
a word. I don't remember signing anything. I probably did, but not a word. So I think the biggest aspect there is research beforehand. We often, think about the plan of action and, okay, do I want an epidural? Yes or no? And we put it on our baby plan. Do I want to do X, Y, and Z? Yes or no? But it doesn't go further than that in terms of why do I not want this, or why do I want this? Make sure you're okay, comfortable with every ingredient, with every possible adverse reaction, or just even understanding what could happen. Is empowering in its own.
And I think it's important too not to go into it being fear-based. I think many people misunderstand my intent and think, oh, well, you're just fear-mongering. That's not it at all. I want you to be the most informed consumer. So then when you do go to accept that product, you can be alert, you can eliminate diagnostic confusion, and then you can seek immediate treatment if you need to. What's the constant term? It's not out of fear, but out of preparedness. That's all it is just understanding what the government says about these products, what the manufacturer says about them. So then you can have more knowledgeable and confident conversations with your provider too, because if they recommend an epidural, then you can say, oh, well, are you also recommending the internal fetal monitoring that the manufacturer recommends? And then you can have just more informed questions.
Right.
Well, we have touched on pregnancy, and we are going to dive in deeper in our next conversation with Alexandra, more into mommyhood. So make sure that you don't miss next week's episode. And we are also going to want you to join the conversation and ask your questions, share your stories. You can go to thediscoverydoc.com/podcast, and you can leave us a voicemail or send us a memo.
If you're seeking a natural and targeted approach to enhance your well-being, consumable nature-derived peptides might be the perfect fit for your lifestyle and budget. Experience the incredible benefits of these powerful compounds that work harmoniously with your body to promote optimal health. Looking to build muscle, target stubborn fat, boost energy without the crash, or improve sleep quality? Peptides offer solutions for all of these concerns and more. For those interested in taking their wellness journey a step further, explore the world of injectable peptides designed exclusively for you by our experts at Discovery Wellness Group. By partnering with Discovery Wellness Group, you'll gain access to personalized plans tailored to meet your unique needs and goals. Are you ready to dive into the world of peptides and transform your life? Click the link in the podcast description or make an appointment with Discovery Wellness Group today. The power to optimize your well-being is just a click or a call away.
Welcome back to this Toxin Tamer feature. We are going to talk about where GMOs are found. We've talked about last week of what they are, so gave you a little insight on that. So if you missed that, go back and listen to last week. And now we're going to talk about where to find them and some of the biggest culprits and the players in the game of GMO.
Yes. So, why did I say it like that? Yes. So,
yeet those GMOs.
I know. I was just doing that in my head, but I didn't say it and you did, and that's so great.
GMOs have a plan and a purpose when used appropriately.
Yeah, for sure. And it's important to know cotton, corn, and soybeans are the main GMO crops in the United States. Most of those are used to make ingredients for other foods. When laundry lists, corn syrup can be used as a sweetener in many foods and drinks, corn starch, soybean, corn, canola oils, which, fill our snacks, our breads, our dressings, mayonnaise, everything. Sugar from sugar beets. Actually, that's one I did not know. And then livestock feed. But the stats on this are pretty wild. So I always kind of knew that corn in the United States, most of it was genetically modified, but it wasn't until I saw this stat that it really slapped me in the face. Over 90% of corn in the United States is genetically modified. 90%. 94% of soy in the United States is genetically modified, and 97% of cotton in the United States is genetically modified. So keep that in mind in our next episode as we talk about the whys behind this, and why it's important to know. Keep those stats in mind with the studies that are associated with specifically modified corn and soy. Modified cotton is kind of but the soy and the corn, those two are big whammies.
Because we're not really eating cotton unless we're consuming cottonseed oil.
Right, exactly. Which is much more rare than other oils, but still out there. The other big crops in terms of GMO in the United States: apples, alfalfa, canola, eggplant. Eggplant, actually, that one is not in the U.S., but other countries it can be genetically modified. Papaya, pineapple, potato, salmon is a big one. Squash, sugar beets, sugar cane. Sugar cane is a big one. I think that not a lot of people pay attention to in terms of being genetically modified either. I think most of what we think when it comes to genetically modified foods are produce.
Yeah.
But we don't think about sugar.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to get the most yield. And I also think that Samwise Gamgee is very disappointed that his potatoes are genetically modified.
Yes.
So for all of the meals of the day, especially 11sies, first breakfast, second breakfast, all the things. So what benefit does, when done correctly, like if we do it at home, so apples. So hundreds of years ago, you didn't want to actually eat an apple, like pick it off the tree and eat it. They would use it to make ciders and vinegars and all kinds of other stuff, but you wouldn't actually want to eat them. So like Johnny Appleseed, he went around doing these crabapple trees to make these other things, but you wouldn't like eat it like a fruit like we do today. So it has gone through its own modification process. And now when you're in the grocery store, you have a variety of apples to choose from green apples and Granny Smith all the way to pink ladies and Fuji apples or Fiji apples, whichever one it is, like all of the different things. There's different baking apples. And that's all because over the last couple hundred years, there has been some genetically modified pairing things and putting things together. Now, when they become Franken apples and last forever, like that starts to become a problem.
Yes. Because now you're consuming all of that.
Right.
Yeah. I was going to say something and then I totally forgot. You had a great point in there. What were you saying? Apples? Nope, I lost it.
Johnny Appleseed, crab apples.
Oh, strawberries.
Yeah, because that tracks.
Okay.
It makes sense.
A good example are strawberries. If we see berries in nature, fresh strawberries that are not genetically modified, they are yay big. They are like an inch. What is that? An inch? Yeah. It's about an inch.
They're like in between the size of a blueberry and a raspberry.
Yes, they're so tiny. And then even organic strawberries. If you buy organic strawberries from, Publix or wherever, some of these are the size of my palm. That is wild to me.
And they don't taste like strawberries.
No, and they're losing their density in terms of the nutritional value, but that also has happened over time. We've become so disconnected from nature that in modifying the organism, it literally changes the shape of it, the nutritional value, and the benefit to us. I mean, there's produce today, like the average orange today has 50% less of the vitamins than it had 50 years ago because we're kind of dabbling and playing with the genetics of it, although it lasts longer.
Yep.
It's not providing as much.
You'd have to eat like 45 cups of spinach to get the same amount of calcium from eating 2 cups 50 years ago. Something crazy like that. So let's talk about, before we move on to why we don't need to have, or why we should be aware of GMOs. Let's talk about eating seasonally, because we don't need to be eating every fruit every season. And then our body doesn't know what to do with it. You should not be able to eat blueberries all year round.
Right. Absolutely. And that's where I love
fresh blueberries.
Yes. Fresh blueberries. That, convenience has become such a thing. So we have access to everything all the time. You can get strawberries all year round. You can get oranges, apples, blueberries all year round. And same thing with vegetables. And we're not meant to design to eat like that. We're meant to design to eat locally, seasonally. So I find importance in that. I find that it diversifies your diet much better, then we're creatures of habit. So we'll
Mhm.
constantly go for, the one thing that we're used to over and over and over from the grocery store. But if you're eating seasonally, it actually naturally forces you to create a more balanced, diverse diet, which helps your microbiome. It helps you to eat the colors of the rainbow
Mhm.
in terms of your veggies and your fruits. And it brings us back to that rhythm in terms of nature that we are meant and designed to be on. It's convenience.
Yeah,
It
you're not
has
meant.
come in the way.
Yeah, you're not meant to have pumpkin in July,
Right.
and you're not supposed to have watermelon in December.
Yeah.
Like those things just naturally in the ebb and flow and the cycle of things just should not be, and we force
Mhm.
it. And so on our next episode, we're going to talk about why.
Why should we care?
Why should we care?
Yeah.
Do we care?
We care.
We care.
I care. You should
Okay.
care. Stay tuned.
On this segment of Medical Myth Busting, hear Anna Kate say really hard words.
Because I always put it on her, guys. I
Okay. I think I
always
can
put it on
say
her.
this. I
I
know
think
this
you
word.
can. I'm not good when there's multiple consonants places.
Okay, so this week's medical myth bust is centenarians are genetic anomalies.
Ooh, see, I want to say I want to put too many N's in there and too many T's and R's. So
Centenarians are genetic anomalies.
you did really great. That was perfect. Anytime it comes up, I'm going to tap her to say that word. Anyways, so this is a cool subject. I love this subject, but genetics play only a tiny role in those who live to be over 100. So that word
Centenarians.
means that you live to 100 or beyond. And genetics is only a tiny, tiny portion of that. So genes can only account for about 30% of longevity in humans. Let that sink in. Genes can only, you see my hands. Genes,
If you're not watching this on YouTube, you should.
you should.
And drop an old man or an old woman
Yes.
in the comments
Yes.
below.
Genes only account for 30% of longevity. So when you have all these medical factors in the world that are saying, oh, well, you're genetically predisposed to X, Y, and Z, so it's going to happen. That's not true. That is only 30% of the equation, which leaves 70% to be determined by
My favorite things:
by
lifestyle and diet.
lifestyle and diet, guys. 70%. You actually have control of if your genes express or not. It's in 70% by 70% in terms of how you live your life. So that is true when it comes to
Centenarians.
there we go. There are two pockets of longevity in particular.
And these are typically called blue zones, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So if you've heard that term, blue zone, this is what establishes that.
Yes. And those two pockets are
Hunzas of Pakistan and Okinawans of Japan.
yes. Hard words. She gets them. So the Huns.
That's my only job here.
The Huns. No. Sit there and look pretty too. That's a
good.
more
I can
important
do
job.
that. It's a hard job, but somebody's got to do it.
Someone has to do it. The Hunzas live in a remote valley in northeast Pakistan, completely enclosed by mountain peaks.
So they're eating that pink Himalayan salt.
All right. The average death is 90 in comparison to 77 in the United States. So, yeah. Insert the need for the U.S. healthcare system to drastically change to focus on diet and lifestyle here.
Yeah, let's
the
switch
start.
from healthcare to well care, because our healthcare isn't actually healthcare, it's sick care.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's reactive care.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So you have this remote village enclosed by mountains who are outliving pretty much essentially every single American, yet we are the most modernized country, the best healthcare, the best everything.
We're also the sickest country.
And we're also the sickest country. Make it make sense. So an interesting part here is the Hunzas have taken part in the past in American cardiology studies where they displayed perfect cholesterol, blood pressure, perfect health, heart health. So why? Their farming methods are all organic. They have zero processed foods, zero synthetic chemicals. They are cut off from the modern world that so much relies on those aspects. Most of the food that they eat is raw. They fast before the new harvest. All children are breastfed, and birth defects are pretty much non-existent.
That sounds like paradise.
Doesn't it?
Isn't that Eden? That should be Eden.
Right. But it just goes to show we have so many discrepancies, especially right now in our country, that's like, this causes this. No, this doesn't cause this. But this is such a simple example of how a community who eats fresh, raw, local foods has no, I don't even want to say virtually, but has no cardiac issues. And in the United States, cardiac issues is the number one killer, right?
Shows to go, yeah.
Whew, guys, that should burn in terms of how we structure our country. The next subgroup is in Okinawa. There are 35
centenarians
for every 100,000 islanders. That's the highest ratio in the world.
Because Japan's an island.
Yes. That compared to 10 per every 100,000 in the United States. So over triple we can find in that community. Their lifestyle, healthy diet, little exposure to chemical toxins, regular exercise, and most important, this is a fascinating aspect about their culture specifically, is their positive outlook on life. That is what most
centenarians
in Okinawa,
Okinawans,
yeah, centenarians contribute their longevity to, is that positive outlook, is the cup is half full rather than half empty, is not being inundated with negative society impressions or negative just emotions, thoughts, feelings, stress. Yes, it is that positive outlook. So it is absolutely achievable. This is absolutely achievable if we could just restructure how we view ourselves, our healthcare system, down to basics. It could be possible for us too.
Mm-hmm. And it's all a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You have the choice, and not making the choice is also a choice.
Right.
So I wonder where Finnish people fall on this list, because
that's a good
Finns
one. Yeah.
are the happiest people on the planet.
Yeah. That's a good one. Or people, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know what to call them. Iceland would be another good one to look into. Yeah. Anyways, it's possible.
Those Nordic countries are.
Yeah.
You know,
we could learn a lot.
Yeah. You know, I hail from like Vikings. Like my great grandfather is actually Odin, and my both maternal and paternal sets of grandparents settled New Sweden in Pennsylvania or New Jersey or wherever.
Oh.
My mom has tracked it back.
Wow.
So, and my brother looks like a Viking.
That is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact. AK's a Viking over here. Female version.
Good to know.
Let's get it.
So, all right. Live to 100. Do the things. Make the good choices. Ditch processed things.
Toxins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make better choices. And you may not live to 100, but having a better cognitive and better heart
outlook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's struggling with her words right now.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But
it's just making me say the hard words.
Yes. The thing is, just know that it's possible. Again, genetics make up 30% of our longevity. 30%. So the other 70 is up to you.
Yep. It's your choice.
Make good choices.
Until next time.
Let's discover together.
We hope this episode has provided valuable information on the importance of informed consent during pregnancy and helped you understand the prevalence of GMOs in our food supply. Remember, taking charge of your health and longevity involves asking questions and making well-informed decisions. Join us again for more myth-busting and health-boosting insights, and always keep your quest for knowledge alive. Your well-being depends on it.
Hold your horses. Before we ride off into the sunset, let's take a moment for a friendly disclaimer. The information shared on this podcast is for general, informational, and entertainment purposes only. While we strive to provide accurate and helpful information, we're not here to replace your trusty healthcare provider or doctor. Consider us your Discovery Doc trailblazers, sharing our knowledge and experiences as we journey forward towards wellness. However, remember to always consult with a qualified medical professional before taking any action based on the content of this episode. Like the Wild West adventure, this disclaimer may change occasionally, so be sure to check back for updates. Stay healthy, stay adventurous, and keep blazing trails with the Discovery Doc.